Now let's head to the crypto space and see what's going on there. I see the board is really green, like the color behind me right there.
On the screen.
It's, it's a Nigerian color today, to the joy of a lot of investors.
But I see some spots actually greener than the Nigerian flag.
So we have shades of green.
Different shades of green, but it's green, at the end of the day. Bitcoin, 70K, trying to stay above that level. It remains to be seen if that actually holds going forward. But let's look at the top headlines this afternoon. We see Tether CEO is warning of airdrop scam emails right there. According to Paolo Ardoni, the CEO of Tether, cryptocurrency users should exercise extreme caution now, as a prominent email list management provider widely used by crypto firms was allegedly compromised in a data breach. So to safeguard from phishing emails, users should double check the authenticity of the email and make sure they have two-factor authentication on crypto platforms. Then we see Qatar, they've announced the CBDC projects. The central bank recently announced the completion of the infrastructure development supporting an in-house built CBDC. The bank estimates that project will enter its experimental stages this year in October, allowing several national and international banks to test the functionality of the pilots by facilitating large payments among them. Well, a couple of countries are launching their central bank digital currencies, the likes of Qatar and Israel, and others are launching the first phase of their project. Let's talk to Dr. Iwa Salami now, Associate Professor of FinTech Law Regulation, University of East London. She's also a member of CBDC Academic Advisory Group, Bank of England and HM Treasury. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight to be here.
Right. So in your opinion, looking at countries that have launched central bank digital currencies so far, is it encouraging for more countries to launch new projects at this time, looking at adoption?
So I think the idea of launching a CBDC is different for different jurisdictions across the world. So whilst for emerging markets, developing countries or poorer economies where you have an issue with financial inclusion, there's a rationale that CBDCs would ideally facilitate financial inclusion, i.e. financial inclusion here meaning that ordinary citizens, or particularly those at the bottom of the pyramid, which is basically poorer people, would be able to have, who do not currently have access to bank accounts, for example, would be able to have access to a CBDC wallet that's, if one is launched, if you like, by the central bank, and therefore giving them the opportunity to be able to engage in different types of transactions that they wouldn't have ideally been able to engage in without this opportunity. Whereas in other countries, it's totally different. So for other countries, for example, it would be a question of sort of, facilitating the idea of financial innovation and particularly also sort of enabling individuals, companies, organizations that actually want to transact in digital assets to be able to do so, but do so in a way that, that in a sense doesn't jeopardize the sorts of things that central banks are interested in, which is financial stability and monetary stability. So for example, in advanced markets, we're seeing so much the era of tokenization, which is basically the representation of real-world assets on blockchain-based systems in order to be able to make them easily sort of transferable and the like. And for that, central bank digital currencies really can serve as the anchor for these new forms of digital assets and digital currencies. So basically, the idea of really ensuring that the central bank does what it's really set out to, what fulfills one of its functions, which is to facilitate financial stability and monetary stability.
Fantastic. So definitely Nigeria led the pack when it comes to launching a central bank digital currency. We had the eNaira launch in, I think, 2021. But looking at other countries, we see them in testing phases for so long. I know the Bank of England, they've been working on central bank digital currency for a while now. Talk to me about the eNaira, the adoption so far, and was it launched too fast or too soon?
Well, obviously, the announcement that the eNaira was going to launch obviously came as a surprise to a lot of people because we didn't see it coming. But in hindsight, from what we know, we know that as at last year, I think it may have been about sort of February 2023, the central bank did announce that they were changing their technology provider. And I mean, that, for example, was an indication that maybe the country wasn't very well ready to actually launch a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, because, of course, we know that in order to be able to launch a central bank digital currency, you would have sort of worked out all the technological infrastructure, and once sort of midway, or I'd say maybe 2 years after the launch, as is the case in the situation with the eNaira, want to change the technology provider. And beyond that, there's been other sort of situations or challenges, shall I say, with the eNaira. So there's been this, poor adoption of the eNaira, partly because, citizens are skeptical about the eNaira and what the central bank can see through their transactions. And I have to say that this skepticism isn't just peculiar to the Nigerian situation. It's also a skepticism that cuts across all the countries actually that have launched or that are planning to launch a CBDC. So it basically, it's a question of the central banks really trying to, in running their campaign as to how CBDCs would work, is ensuring that they kind of allay the fears. And not just only that, also ensuring that they actually have the technological infrastructure to cater for those concerns.
All right, but before I let you go now, when do you think the world will fully embrace central bank digital currency? Because we know crypto enthusiasts, they still rely heavily on stable coins.
Sorry, I didn't hear your question. You're breaking up.
When do you think the financial world will, embrace central bank, digital currencies, because we see the crypto guys, they love their stable coins a lot right now.
So I think it's so important that citizens are aware of what is going on. So we're very quickly moving into an era of tokenization, which is basically the tokenization of real-world assets. And that's the representation of these real-world assets onto blockchain to make them much more digital, easy to, as I said, easy to kind of exchange, transact with, and the like. And when we say the tokenization of real-world assets, we're really talking in terms of things like tokenization of shares, bonds, land, even deposits, bank deposits. And when we're seeing these developments, it's so vital that the central banks can actually play a role here in ensuring that financial and monetary stability is safeguarded, if you like. And central bank digital currencies are really the best placed to ensure that, to anchor, if you like, these new forms of digital assets and digital currency. So it's so vital that the CBDCs actually emerge.
Okay.
Because in the way that we're seeing financial innovation develop, it's very clear that if in the context of Nigeria or Africa, it doesn't happen in the next, 10, 15 years, it's very likely that that's the trajectory of travel.
Okay, we'll definitely keep tracking development and adoption. Thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Iwa Salami, Associate Professor, FinTech Law and Regulation, University of East London. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so there you have it. At some point, when you want to buy land, you might have to, buy it on a blockchain and get your title uploaded, on the blockchain, and nobody's going to be able to take your land from you, at some point.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe we'll see lands in Lagos, right?
For C of O and filling forms.
You just have it there on the blockchain, your title right there.
It's still in the future, laddie. You need to come back to today.
All right, but right now,
you need to live in today.
Yeah.
All right, laddie. Thank you, and that's it on the program. Thank you so much.